He wasn't supposed to feel this way. Jaiwan stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his secret penthouse, one hand braced against the cold glass, his breath fogging faintly as the city lights shimmered below. Seoul was never truly silent, but up here, it felt like the world held its breath. Behind him, Amira moved quietly, taking in the room he'd brought her to. She didn't wander far. She didn't touch anything. She simply stood near the edge of a soft gray sofa, her posture small, her expression unreadable. Jaiwan hated that. He wanted to read her, wanted to know if she felt even half the storm raging inside him. Minutes passed, but his pulse didn't settle. The night was too still, too calm, too much like the moment before a blade slid between the ribs. He turned. Amira flinched, not in fear but in awareness, like she felt him before she saw him, like the air changed when he moved. Her eyes lifted slowly to meet his, and something tightened sharply in his chest. She trusted him. He didn't know what to do with that. Jaiwan stepped away from the window. "You should sit." She didn't. "You're tense." The corner of his mouth twitched. "You're observant." "You brought me here," she said softly, "to keep me safe." "Obviously. But you won't talk to me." There was hurt in her voice, just a thread, but it pierced him. "I'm thinking," he admitted. "That doesn't feel like all you're doing." He stopped in front of her, close but not touching, never touching. He had already come too close to losing control tonight, too close to tasting her breath, too close to forgetting what lines existed between them, lines he couldn't cross, not when danger circled them both like wolves. "You," Jaiwan inhaled deeply, "you make it difficult to think straight." Her breath hitched. She looked away, then back, as if steadying herself. "You said we'd face whatever comes together." "We will." "Then talk to me." It wasn't a demand, it was a plea. And God help him, he couldn't resist her when she spoke like that. Jaiwan moved past her and sat on the sofa, a quiet invitation. She came closer, cautiously, and lowered herself onto the seat beside him, but not too close. He noticed that too. She was trying to protect herself, from him. "Amira," he said finally, "there's something I need you to understand." She turned to him fully, waiting. "You weren't attacked by mistake." Her heartbeat stumbled. He heard it, felt it. She whispered, "So someone was after me." "Yes." "Who?" Jaiwan's jaw tightened. "Someone who believes you belong to him." The shock froze her features. "That's not possible. I don't know one, I don't belong to anyone." He exhaled slowly. "That's where you're wrong." She blinked, confused. "Jaiwan." "I did some digging," he said. "After the first break-in at the main house, I needed to know who walked into my life and why." Her throat tightened. He continued, voice low and steady. "Someone started searching for you 6 months ago, quietly, not online, not legally, through people, through networks I don't like, men who sell information, men who sell people." Amira's hands began to shake. "Jaiwan." He stared at her, unblinking. The name they used was Amira. Her breath left her body. He watched her closely. "Does that surprise you?" She swallowed. "I haven't used my full name in years." "Why?" he asked, voice almost gentle. She looked down at her trembling hands. "Because the last person who used it wasn't someone I wanted to remember." Jaiwan shifted toward her. "Tell me." She opened her mouth, stopped, opened it again. Words trembled at the edge of her lips, but fear held them hostage. And then, bang. A loud, sudden strike echoed through the penthouse floor. Amira jumped, heart slamming against her ribs. Jaiwan didn't flinch. Instead, he stood with deadly calm and walked toward the hallway, every movement precise and controlled, like a predator entering its natural element. "Stay here," he said without turning back. Amira rose immediately. "But..." "Amira," he didn't raise his voice, he didn't have to. "Stay." Fear coiled around her spine as she watched him disappear around the corner, his shadow breaking in the dim hallway lights. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She waited. 1 second. 2. 3. Then she heard it. 2 low voices, one unfamiliar, muffled through the door at the back of the penthouse. She moved before she could stop herself, creeping to the edge of the hallway. Just far enough to see Jaiwan standing at a heavy steel door, speaking quietly with one of his men. She wasn't close enough to hear the words, but she didn't need to. The tension in Jaiwan's shoulders, the clenched fist at his side, they told her enough. Something was wrong. Very wrong. A moment later, the steel door swung open. Jaiwan looked back at her immediately. He didn't say anything, but his eyes flashed a warning. "Jaiwan," she whispered, "please tell me." He closed the distance between them in 3 steps and cupped her shoulders lightly, firmly. Not romantic, not intimate. Protective. "They found us." Her breath shattered. "Who?" He hesitated. And that hesitation terrified her more than the words that followed. "His name is Rahim." Jaiwan's voice dropped lower. "A mid-level syndicate leader who wants to be something bigger. The kind of man who collects people the way others collect art." Amira felt the blood drain from her face. No, he can't be alive." Jaiwan's eyes sharpened. "So you do know him?" Her hands flew to her mouth. She shook her head, eyes squeezed shut as the memory sliced through her like broken glass. "Yes," she whispered hoarsely, "I knew him." And then her voice broke. "He owned the house where I grew up. I wasn't his, but he acted like I was." Jaiwan stiffened. "He used to say," her voice trembled, "that when I turned 18 he would make me stay with him, permanently." A cold fury seeped into Jaiwan's expression. Controlled, silent, terrifying. "What happened?" he asked. "I ran," she whispered. "I ran and never looked back. And now he's looking for you." She nodded, tears gathering. Jaiwan's jaw flexed. "He won't touch you." "He will try," she choked out. "He always finds what he wants." Jaiwan stepped closer. "Not this time." Amira looked up at him, really looked at him, at the fury storming in his eyes, the protectiveness he wasn't even trying to hide anymore. "Jaiwan," she whispered, "why are you doing this? You barely know me." "Yes," he said quietly, "and that is a problem I intend to fix." Her breath faltered. But before she could speak, a sharp buzzing noise echoed through the penthouse. Loud, insistent, impossible to ignore. Jaiwan turned toward the security panel on the wall. Amira froze. "What is that?" "Perimeter alert." "Meaning?" "Someone is here." Her heart dropped. Jaiwan strode to the panel and hit the screen, his hand steady, his face still as stone. The camera feed lit up. Amira's breath shattered completely. Standing in the hallway, outside the penthouse entrance. Wearing a tailored charcoal suit, hands behind his back, posture calm, confident, possessive. Was Rahim. She knew that face. Those cold eyes. That smile that wasn't a smile at all. He lifted his chin slightly and looked directly into the camera. "Hello, little dove." Amira stumbled backward, hand covering her mouth as her whole body shook. Jaiwan's expression changed in an instant. The control vanished, replaced by lethal, absolute rage. He whispered, "Get behind me." She didn't move. He snapped, voice sharp, "Amira, behind me." She obeyed. Jaiwan squared his shoulders, his tattoos shifting with each breath, his entire body radiating danger. Rahim tilted his head, still staring into the camera. "I've come for what's mine," he said softly. "Don't make this unpleasant, Jaiwan. Hand her over and maybe I'll let you keep your life." Jaiwan leaned closer to the screen, voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "You think she belongs to you?" Rahim smiled. "I know she does." Jaiwan's eyes burned. "She belongs to no one," he said, "least of all you." The moment was electric. Dangerous. Explosive. Rahim's eyes glinted. "Then let's see which of us she runs to." The feed cut. The room fell silent. Amira's breath trembled violently as she clutched Jaiwan's arm without thinking. He didn't tell her to let go. Instead, he turned his head slightly toward her, just enough for her to see the raw promise simmering beneath his calm exterior. "Amira," he said quietly, "I'm going to end this." She shook her head. "But he's dangerous." "We'll see," Jaiwan murmured. And then he met her eyes fully, intensely, like she was the only thing anchoring him to the ground. "He came here tonight for one reason," he said slowly, "to take what he thinks is his." Her heartbeat sped. His voice lowered further, rough, honest. "But you're not." Amira's lips parted, breath shallow. "Then, what am I?" Jaiwan took her hand, not forcefully, not possessively, but deliberately. "You," he whispered, "are the only thing he cannot have." For one suspended second, Amira couldn't breathe. Not because of Rahim, not because of fear, but because of the way Jaiwan said it, quiet, steady, unshakably certain. No hesitation, no doubt, like the words had lived inside him long before he spoke them. Her fingers tightened around his. "Jaiwan," she breathed. But before anything else could form between them, the lights in the penthouse flickered once. Then again. Then went completely black. Amira gasped. "What?" Jaiwan pulled her against his chest instantly, one arm locking around her waist, the other reaching behind him for something she couldn't see. A weapon. The air shifted. Heavy, charged, electric. A low mechanical hum pulsed from somewhere deep in the building, like the sound of generators failing. Jaiwan exhaled sharply. He cut the power. "But your security." "Backup is manual," he muttered. "Hyungwoo will reboot it, but Rahim timed this. He wants us in the dark." Amira felt her pulse pounding beneath her skin. "Jaiwan, what do we do?" His voice dropped, controlled and low. "We don't panic." But she felt it. His heartbeat. Vast. Not with fear. Jaiwan didn't fear anything. With calculation, anticipation, rage. He reached into his jacket, flicked something with his thumb, and a thin blue glow lit the space around them. A small tactical light. Even in the dim halo of blue, she saw it. His face carved in shadows. His eyes sharper than knives. His entire body shifting into something she had never fully seen. The predator he tried so hard to keep buried. "Stay behind me," he whispered. She nodded. He moved like water, silent, fluid, deadly. The faint glow from the light traced the edges of his tattoos as he guided her through the hallway, each step measured, protective. "Where are we going?" she whispered. "To the secondary security hub." "What about Rahim?" A muscle ticked in Jaiwan's jaw. "He won't get through the main door without force. If he tries, I'll hear it." Amira swallowed. "You sound so calm." "I'm not calm," he murmured. "I'm focused." "And if he gets inside?" Jaiwan stopped walking. Just stopped. Turned slightly. Looked at her over his shoulder. His voice was a blade wrapped in silk. "If he gets inside," he said softly, "I'll end him before he takes a single step toward you." Her breath hitched. The hallway lights sparked suddenly, once, twice, but failed to come fully back on. The blue glow of Jaiwan's handheld light brushed across the walls as they moved deeper into the penthouse. Then, a soft metallic click echoed behind them. Amira froze. Jaiwan didn't. He moved instantly, pulling her behind a corner, pressing her back against the wall with his arm braced in front of her body. His breath was warm against her ear. "Don't move," he whispered. The tension in the air sharpened. Another click. This one closer. A lock. A door. Someone testing boundaries. Testing patience. Testing him. Jaiwan eased his head around the corner, his body shielding hers completely. Amira's nails dug into her palms. "Jaiwan," she whispered. "Is it?" "No," he murmured. "Not yet." "How do you know?" He looked back at her, eyes dark as midnight. "I know the sound Rahim makes." Something cold slid down her spine. "Then who is it?" Jaiwan hesitated, just a second. Then he stepped out into the open. "Hyungwoo," he said quietly. The tall, broad-shouldered man from earlier emerged from the shadows, nearly invisible in the dim corridor. He bowed his head. "Apologies, boss. The power grid was compromised from the building's lower level. Someone manually disabled the system. Rahim's men. Unconfirmed, but likely." Jaiwan exhaled through his nose. "How many?" 1 or 2 at most. They didn't breach the internal floor yet. They're scouting. Looking for weak points, Jaiwan muttered. Hyungwoo nodded once. Exactly. Amira moved closer unconsciously. What do we do? She whispered. The two men exchanged a look, a silent, practiced communication. Hyungwoo spoke first. We need to get you both out. No, Jaiwan said immediately. Boss. No. Hyungwoo pressed his lips together. Then at least move her to the lower panic corridor. Not happening, Jaiwan said. I'm not putting her in a box underground where there's only one exit. She won't be alone. She will be trapped. Amira's heart thudded loudly as she looked between them. Jaiwan, she began. He didn't look at her. No negotiation. But Hyungwoo wasn't done. Boss, Rahim came here alone. Amira stiffened. Alone. Alone, the man confirmed. No escorts, no backup. Jaiwan's eyes narrowed. That doesn't make sense, Amira whispered. It does, Jaiwan said. He's not here to fight. Hyungwoo nodded grimly. He's here to talk. Or provoke, Jaiwan added. Or take, Hyungwoo finished. A tense silence fell. Amira's breath caught. But why come alone? If he wants to take me, why risk? Because, Jaiwan interrupted softly, he doesn't fear consequences. Her stomach dropped. He thinks, Jaiwan continued, that I won't kill him, not with you watching. Amira felt the room tilt. You wouldn't kill him in front of me. Jaiwan turned to her slowly. The light caught his face. Cold. Controlled. Honest. I would do anything to protect you. Her breath fractured. But before anything else could be said, the penthouse intercom system crackled with static. Then Rahim's voice slid through, smooth as oil. Jaiwan, he drawled. Are you hiding her? That's not very polite. Amira froze. Jaiwan's entire body went still. Rahim continued, tone playful, mocking, too familiar. You took something that doesn't belong to you. I've come to retrieve her. Let's make this civil, him. No need for blood on the marble. Amira's hands shook violently. Jaiwan walked to the nearest speaker panel, pressed a button, and said nothing. Just waited. There was a soft exhale from Rahim, a smile she could hear. Still the quiet one, Rahim murmured. Your brother was more talkative before he died. Hyungwoo flinched. So did Amira. Jaiwan's jaw tightened, but his voice remained soft when he spoke. You shouldn't have said that. Oh, touched a nerve. You shouldn't have said his name. Rahim chuckled. If you want the girl, we can negotiate. I'm reasonable, but if you refuse... A beat. A long one. I'll take her anyway. Amira felt sick. Jaiwan lifted his hand from the panel and exhaled quietly, a controlled release of something far too dangerous. Hyungwoo, he said calmly. Yes, boss. Get her downstairs. Hyungwoo nodded. Understood. Amira stepped back. Wait, what? Jaiwan turned to her. And his expression. God. It shattered her. Not because it was cruel. Because it was gentle. And that was worse. Jaiwan, she whispered. No, don't send me away. He stepped closer and touched her cheek lightly, barely there. Amira, he said. Voice almost a breath. I need you safe. I can stay with you. No, his voice softened even more. If he gets inside, he won't try to kill me. He'll use you. I can't fight him with you in reach. Her lips trembled. I don't want to leave you. You're not leaving me. He brushed a stray curl from her forehead. You're surviving. Tears welled in her eyes. But he continued, quiet and steady. You asked me earlier why I'm doing all of this. She nodded, barely holding it together. This is why, he whispered, because losing you is not an option. Her breath stilled. He took her hands and squeezed them once, firm, grounding. Then he stepped back. The distance felt like a knife. Hyungwoo, Jaiwan said. Yes, boss. Protect her with your life. I will. Jaiwan looked at her one last time. And in that look, God, she saw everything. The fear he never spoke. The want he never admitted. The promise he couldn't put into words. Go, he whispered. Her heart broke, but she nodded and let Hyungwoo lead her away. Hyungwoo led Amira down the dim staircase, the emergency lights barely illuminating each step in a pale red glow. Her legs shook, but she forced them to move. Step. Breathe. Step. Don't look back. But she did. At the top of the staircase, Jaiwan stood watching her, one hand braced on the railing, his figure outlined by the faint blue glow of the tactical light. He wasn't saying anything. He didn't have to. His eyes said everything. Go. Live. Trust me. She swallowed hard and turned away before her heart shattered all over the cold metal stairs. Hyungwoo cleared his throat quietly. He'll be fine. The lie was too gentle to hate him for. Will Rahim hurt him? She whispered. No, Hyungwoo said firmly. Not before trying to take you. Rahim's a snake, but he's not suicidal. He knows Jaiwan will kill him the second he steps out of line. Then why come alone? She asked, her voice trembling. Hyungwoo hesitated as they reached the bottom landing. Because, he said, men like Rahim think the world bends around their desires. Amira clenched her jaw. He doesn't know Jaiwan. No, Hyungwoo said. He underestimates him, and that's the only advantage we have. He scanned the hallway, then motioned toward a reinforced steel door. This way. But Amira stopped. Her hand grabbed his sleeve. I'm going back. Hyungwoo froze. No, absolutely not. I can't just leave him. You're not leaving him. I am, she said fiercely. He's up there alone. You think he'd let you stay if that made him vulnerable? Hyungwoo asked. Her chest tightened. He'll die. No, Hyungwoo's voice turned iron. He'll fight, and if you go back, you'll be the weapon Rahim uses against him. That hit her like a slap. Her knees weakened. I can't lose him, she said, voice cracking. Hyungwoo looked away, jaw tight. Neither can I. He saved my life more than once. She blinked hard, then help him. I am, by getting you safe. She shook her head violently. No, I won't hide. Hyungwoo exhaled through his nose. Stubborn, just like him. I learned from the best. A faint smile tugged at his mouth despite the tension. He'll kill me if I let you go back. Then don't let me go back alone. He turned toward her slowly. You're asking me to bring you into a confrontation with a man who wants to take you and torture Jaiwan with it. Yes. He'll be furious. Yes. He'll probably fire me. Maybe. He studied her for a long second. You care about him. She swallowed. Too much. He muttered something in Korean under his breath, something that sounded like these two will be the death of me, then rubbed a hand down his face. Fine. Amira's eyes widened. Fine. But you follow my orders. You do exactly as I say. You don't run, you don't scream, and you don't put yourself in front of a gun. I won't. Good, because if you die, he'll kill all of us and then himself. Her throat tightened painfully. Okay, she whispered. Let's go. Upstairs. Jaiwan didn't move from the top of the staircase until he heard the door click shut behind Amira and Hyungwoo. Only then did he breathe. Just once. A slow inhale. A slow exhale. Then his expression shifted. Became something ancient. Cold. Unforgiving. Like the ghost of every man he'd killed, settled into his bones at once. He walked toward the penthouse entrance, toward Rahim, with the calm, quiet certainty of a man who had made peace with violence a long time ago. He stopped right before the main door. The lights sputtered again. A voice floated through the crack under the door. Jaiwan, Rahim crooned gently. Are you ready to talk? Jaiwan rested his hand against the steel frame and spoke without heat. I'm ready for you to leave. Rahim chuckled. Now why would I do that when the girl is so close? She's not yours. Everything I pay for is mine. Jaiwan's jaw flexed. You didn't pay for her, you imprisoned her. She would have lived well, Rahim said casually. Better than with you. Jaiwan stepped closer. You don't know how she lives with me. Rahim paused, but I can guess. Jaiwan's heartbeat didn't change. Rahim continued softly. She's beautiful. A man like you doesn't stay cold forever. Jaiwan didn't respond. Rahim leaned forward, letting his voice slide under the door. Tell me, Jaiwan, have you touched her yet? Silence. Then, quietly, without a tremor. She isn't something you get to speak about. That made Rahim laugh. So you want her. Jaiwan closed his eyes for a second. Not in shame. In control. Yes, he said finally, I want her. Rahim hummed with satisfaction. Then give her to me before your attachment becomes a weakness. Jaiwan opened his eyes. They were dead. Emotionless. No. Pity, Rahim sighed. Open the door, let's settle this like men. Jaiwan smiled without humor. I don't settle with men who hurt women. Tisk hurt, I would have adored her. You don't know what adoration means. And you do, Rahim asked coolly. Yes. Rahim stilled. Jaiwan lowered his voice into something dark and absolute. I would bleed for her. You would bleed her. For the first time, Rahim didn't answer. And that silence was enough. Jaiwan reached for the lock. And turned it. Hyungwoo and Amira reached the top of the stairs, just in time to hear the metallic click of the penthouse door unlocking. Amira grabbed Hyungwoo's arm. He's letting him in, Hyungwoo. I know, he whispered. Stay behind me, don't step into the doorway. Jaiwan, she whispered, voice cracking. But Jaiwan didn't look back at her. He didn't even blink. He opened the door. Rahim stepped inside slowly, hands still behind his back, wearing the same calm, cruel smile Amira remembered from years ago. His eyes found her instantly. Well, Rahim said softly, there you are. Amira's breath fled. Jaiwan moved. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just one step. But it placed him directly between them again. Blocking Rahim's view. Blocking everything. No, Jaiwan said. Rahim raised an eyebrow. No. You don't talk to her. You don't look at her. You don't know her name anymore. Rahim smiled. And who are you to decide that? Jaiwan's voice dropped to a whisper. The man who will end you. Rahim laughed lightly. Over a runaway girl. Jaiwan's voice sharpened. Over Amira. Her breath caught. Hyungwoo muttered, ah shit. Rahim's smile slowly faded. No, he said quietly. Her name is. Don't, Jaiwan snapped, the word cutting through the space like a blade. Rahim tilted his head. She told you nothing, yet you think you know her. I know enough. Then let me enlighten you. No, Jaiwan repeated. You don't get to speak her past into existence like you own it. Rahim's gaze darkened. You're emotional, Jaiwan. Dangerous combination. Be glad that's all I am, Jaiwan murmured. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then Rahim exhaled slowly. I'll give you a choice. Jaiwan didn't blink. Give her back to me, or I will tear down everything you care about. Your men, your businesses, your family name. You're assuming, Jaiwan interrupted, that I have something left to lose. Rahim paused. And something shifted in his expression. A realization. A dangerous one. Ah, Rahim whispered. So she is the last thing, isn't she? Jaiwan's silence answered for him. Rahim smiled. And reached into his suit. Hyungwoo moved immediately, gun raised. Hands where I can see them. But Rahim lifted his empty palms slowly. I come unarmed. Liar, Jaiwan muttered. Perhaps, Rahim said, but I didn't come to fight. Then why are you here? Jaiwan asked. Rahim's eyes gleamed. To take her back. Over my dead body, Jaiwan said. Rahim's smile widened. I can arrange that. He lunged. Hyungwoo shouted. Amira screamed. Jaiwan moved. And the world broke open. Jiwon didn't think he moved. 1 second Rahim's voice was echoing through the warehouse, that cold, poisonous glee dripping from each word. And the next, Jiwon had shoved Amira behind a stack of metal crates. placing himself between her and the danger with the same instinct he used to breathe. Rahim's steps were confident, leisurely. He had the sound of a man who believed he'd already won. "Do you know why your father trusted me?" Rahim's voice taunted, moving through the shadows. "Because I do what needs to be done. If the girl was a threat, she should have been handled the way all threats are handled." Amira's breath trembled against Jiwon's back. He felt it like a blade. He leaned in close, voice barely a whisper. "Stay behind me. Don't move unless I pull you." Amira nodded, even though she knew he couldn't see it. Rahim's voice rose again, mocking. "Your father was weak in the end, Jaiwan, and weakness is contagious. You should be thanking me. I'm doing what he never had the courage to do." Jiwon stepped out. Slow. Controlled. Silent fury burning in his eyes. Rahim's smile widened like a wound. "Ah, there he is, the heir who no longer acts like one." Jiwon didn't speak. His silence frightened Rahim more than anything words could have done. The two men circled each other on the warehouse floor, concrete cold beneath their feet, tension snapping in the air like electricity. Rahim clicked his tongue. "Do you know what your father said to me before he died?" Jiwon's jaw clenched. He didn't want to know. He didn't want Rahim to have that power. But Rahim kept talking. He said, "Protect my son." Rahim laughed. Pathetic, he begged like a dog. That was it. Something deadly inside Jiwon cracked loose. He lunged. Rahim blocked the first hit, barely, staggering backward. Jiwon didn't stop. Didn't hesitate. Didn't think. Every punch was years of buried pain. Every hit was a memory. Every strike was a wound he'd carried alone. "You don't get to talk about him," Jiwon growled, fists flying. "You don't get to touch her." Another blow. "You don't get to come into my home and—" Rahim slammed a metal rod into Jiwon's ribs. Jiwon dropped to one knee, breath knocked out of him. Amira gasped, almost ran out, but she stopped herself, hand flying to her mouth. Rahim raised the pipe again, smug. "You're predictable, boy, just like him." The pipe came down. But Jiwon caught it mid-swing. His knuckles whitened around the steel. His eyes were no longer controlled, no longer cold, but burning. "Enough," Jiwon whispered. And then, he yanked Rahim forward, drove his fist into Rahim's gut, then twisted the pipe out of his hand with a sharp crack of bone. Rahim fell to the floor, trying to crawl, trying to breathe, trying to run. Jiwon walked toward him slowly, chest heaving, face blank as snow. The terrifying calm of a man who had stopped holding back. Rahim reached for a fallen gun. But Amira kicked it away before he could touch it, her foot slamming down with more strength than she knew she had. Rahim's head snapped up at her, fury and shock mixing. "You little—" Jiwon grabbed him by the collar and hauled him upward with one hand. "You came after her," he said quietly. "You threatened her." Rahim sputtered, panicking. "It wasn't personal." "It is now." Jiwon slammed him back against the crates. Rahim slid down, unconscious. Breathing, but barely. Jiwon stood over him, breathing hard. Hands trembling. Ribs aching. Heart pounding. Then, "Jiwon." Her voice. Soft. Shaking. Pulling him back to himself. He turned. Amira rushed to him, hands flying to his face, his ribs checking for injuries. He winced but caught her hands, holding them between his. "I'm fine." "You're hurt." "I'm fine," he repeated, softer this time. Because her worry was undoing him more than Rahim ever could. Sirens began rising in the distance, Jiwon's men finally having traced them. But the noise faded into the background, because all he could see was her. Her eyes. Her trembling lips. Her courage. Her fear for him. "Amira," he breathed, pulling her closer. "You came out when he reached for the gun." "You would have gotten hurt," she whispered. "You could have died." "So could you," she shot back, anger cracking through her fear. "But you didn't think of that, did you? You never think about yourself." He stared at her. Then, he laughed. A soft, broken sound. Like he hadn't used that part of his voice in years. I didn't think, he admitted, brushing a strand of hair from her face, because all I could see was him touching you. Her breath hitched. And that, Jiwon said quietly, is something I won't allow, not now, not ever. Her hand slid up to his jaw, her thumb brushing the corner of his mouth. You scared me, she whispered. You scared me, he replied. There they stood, in a warehouse full of broken metal and broken history, holding each other like they were the only solid thing left in the world. Jiwon's men secured Rahim. Police sirens approached. Statements were taken. But through it all, Jiwon kept Amira close, his hand on the small of her back. Her fingers curled around his sleeve. When they finally climbed into his car, exhausted and silent, the adrenaline slowly faded, leaving something else behind. Peace. Quiet. A strange, warm stillness that neither had felt in years. The drive back to the penthouse was wordless, but not empty. He rested one hand on the wheel. The other kept drifting toward her leg, just to make sure she was still there. When they got inside, the city lights washed over them in soft gold. Amira walked to the window, arms wrapped around herself, staring at Seoul glittering beneath the night. Jiwon approached quietly. You're safe now, he said. She turned. Her eyes were tired, swollen but soft. I know. He reached for her hand. She let him. Everything that happened today, she whispered, voice breaking. It felt like the world kept trying to tear us apart. But it didn't, he said, lifting her hand to his lips. We're still here. She stepped closer. He knew your father. He used him, Jiwon replied, jaw tightening. But that ends tonight. Amira studied his face. You look lighter, she said after a moment. He blinked. Lighter. Yes, she touched his cheek gently, like you finally put something down you've been carrying alone. He let out a slow breath. I did. And what about us, she whispered. What happens now? He didn't answer with words. He cupped her face, slow and reverent, and kissed her. A deep, quiet, grateful kiss. Not born from fear or adrenaline, but from survival, from choice, from peace. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. What happens now, he murmured, is whatever we decide together. Her smile trembled. Hopeful, warm, real. Together, she echoed. He wrapped his arms fully around her then, pulling her against his chest as the city lights glowed like distant stars behind them. For the first time in their brutal, tangled, chaotic journey, the world finally felt still. Safe. Whole. And as the night settled softly around them, Jiwon whispered the words he never thought he'd say to anyone. You're home now, Amira. And she whispered back, voice small and full and certain. So are you.